Hello! In this video I'd like to discuss the top 100 anime ever, or rather, various lists of that type that I've seen. I recently saw a video list on YouTube by animebackwhen, and it got me thinking about this subject. Trying to reduce all of anime's history down to just 100 anime is a real challenge. I made my own list several years ago, and had to cut a lot of fantastic anime. Despite understanding this, I always find myself annoyed when looking at lists by other people. Perhaps I'm just unable to get over my own personal bias, but I feel they frequently share very similar problems. I don't mean to be too critical of animebackwhen, but I will use his list as an example as I go over 5 problems that I often see in these lists that I tried to avoid when I made mine. The anime showing up on screen are the 100 from my list, starting with lesser known anime and working towards more popular ones. I made it several years ago, so it won't contain anything after 2016. Well, that's the end of the intro, so let's go! First, I think it's important to make it clear what your list's purpose is. If you're trying to make a list of your 100 favorites as a recommendation for others, then I can't really criticize it. Top favorite lists are fun, and show off the creator's unique tastes. But animebackwhen states at the beginning of his video that he had to consider the cultural importance as well as the quality of an anime before adding it to his list. And at the end of his video, says that they are the 100 most essential anime that you need to watch. This implies an attempt at a less biased list with a goal of gathering the medium's most popular and acclaimed series, or trying to represent its rich history and culture. He included one anime he admits he had never watched, but other than that, seemed to pull entirely from works he had seen. If you're making a list of your favorites, that's what it should be, the 100 anime you love the most. But if you're suggesting that your list is the greatest anime has to offer, you should do your best to understand what exists outside of what you've seen. Some people might include important anime they've never seen before, but only if they were popular in the West, ignoring that many influential series never made it big outside Japan. Some of these may only be available with fan subs, or not have any English translation at all. Most of the really important anime have been translated, but there's still quite a few that haven't been, especially those that were long and not from a genre popular outside Japan at the time of their release. Sometimes an anime will appear on lists because of its greater popularity in the West compared to Japan. Trigun and Big O are 2 common examples of this. There's nothing necessarily wrong with this, but if not done in moderation, it hurts the list's ability to represent the unique culture that created the medium. Oftentimes, anime fans will ignore anything produced more than a few years before they got into anime. Animebackwhen actually did a lot better than most, including many 80s and 90s anime. When he started the list with Katsudo Shashin, I was surprised and a little excited to see a list that didn't ignore older anime, but it turned out it was the only one made prior to 1980. It's also a really odd choice for a pre-1960 anime. To be honest, it seemed as though he just looked up the oldest anime on my anime list without any care for its actual significance. Normally I see people include Astro Boy. It's well known for being important to the industry, so it makes sense. But after that, the 60s are almost always completely ignored. The 70s can sometimes receive a bit more recognition, with something from Osamu Dezaki, Go Nagai, and Leiji Matsumoto, along with well-known works like Lupin and Gundam. I can understand limiting these eras to a degree. Most 60s anime aren't something a modern audience would have much interest in watching, and, as stated earlier, are more likely to not have any subs. But it is important to understand what was produced during these eras, so that you have a good reason for including or not including something from this foundational period of anime history. Studio Ghibli has produced over a dozen classics that would be great picks for a top 100 list, but adding all of them reduces its ability to highlight a variety of creators. Animebackwhen avoids this by dedicating one spot to all of Studio Ghibli. He also does this for Clamp, but for some reason still includes Magic Knight Rayearth separately on the list, and then he includes other overlapping entries, such as 2 movies from Makoto Shinkai and 2 series based on manga by Rumiko Takahashi. This is tricky to prevent due to talented people often working on many great anime, and just because 2 movies or series had the same director or writer doesn't mean that they don't have other unique members on their staff deserving of recognition. All options need to be carefully considered to achieve balance. This next one is really common. While animebackwhen has a pretty decent mix of genres, at least 15 of the spots are still taken up by battle shonen. Out of the 8 he saved for the end as the most important, 75% of them are battle shonen. I've seen some people make lists with over 25 battle shonen. And that's not getting into all the other action series. It's a very strange view of otaku. Sure, battle shonen are a big part of the culture, especially for women, but I can't understand why anyone would treat it like it's the core of the culture. Another thing I sometimes see is an aversion to comedy anime, especially lewd comedy. There are some people who want to make anime seem more respectable and cut out anything that they don't think will be taken seriously. Lists like these can sometimes be seen as pretentious and don't do a good job of representing the medium as a whole. Avoiding anime with heavy fan service is particularly strange, since it has always been such a huge part of anime. Even the battle shonen heavy lists will do this often, as if the genre is somehow more mature. Props to animebackwhen for including Kite in H anime. This is a genre that is almost always ignored. Now, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my list. What do you think? Quite a few really great anime, right? Although, it seems to be missing several of the most influential anime. It doesn't always follow the rules I've been giving in this video. Actually, I have a confession. The truth is, I lied. This isn't my top 100 list. I have a top 200 list, and I removed the top 100 and have been showing what would make up 101 through 200. What was the point of this? I'm not entirely sure, really. I guess it was to show how difficult a task this is, or to show that there isn't really one right answer. While there's several obvious omissions from this list, it still has a lot of really great anime that would fit in perfectly fine on an actual top 100 list. It shares 17 with animebackwhen's list, if you only count one Ghibli film. My real top 100 list shares an additional 25. Considering my top 200 has 50 anime made prior to the 80s, a period he doesn't cover, our two lists have a lot in common. And just because it's not on my list doesn't mean it's not great. In the end, while I do stand by my complaints, I love looking at these lists, and I love critiquing them afterwards. If anyone watching this ever decides to make their own top 100 list, you can consider my advice if you want, or ignore it completely. I'll probably be in your comments complaining anyway. Well, that just about wraps everything up. I plan to make a video with my true top 100 list at some point, so if you're interested in that, subscribe so you don't miss it. Like this video if, you liked it, or dislike it if you're angry about me lying. That's fair. Comments are good too. Let me know what you think about top 100 lists. Are there any anime you think have to be in one? Well, anyways, thanks for watching. Bye bye!